Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms policy, politics, culture, media, you name it. We're talking about it right here on Coffee with Craig. So please take a moment, like and share the program so that your friends can know exactly where the conversation is taking place. Also, if you haven't already done so, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And in the case of Facebook and YouTube, make sure that you hit the notification button. That way you'll be notified as soon as we go live, and you can participate in the live chat as the program is taking place. Also want to encourage you, if you haven't done so lately, please make sure to visit fpcgear.com. That's fpcgear.com. It is the place to go to get your Pro 2A swag. I'm talking t-shirts, I'm talking coffee mugs, hoodies, all sorts of stuff is available there for you for the home and office. Even once again, if you just want to go outside and you got to wear a mask, well, guess what? You can find one at fpcgear.com. And as usual, the best thing about it is every dollar that you spend goes right back into the fight for our right to keep and bear arms, so you can support the Second Amendment and you can look good doing it. That's fpcgear.com. All right, needless to say, there's still a lot going on. Congress is now back in session, so we need to be paying attention to what's going on there, right? And the challenge with this is that there's a bipartisan effort, quite frankly, to try and make it more difficult or to either delay or obstruct your ability to be able to purchase a firearm. Now, what am I referring to? I'm referring to stopnixdelays.com. That's stopnixdelays.com. Now, the reason why this is vitally important is because there are a few bills that are currently right now in Congress. And these particular bills, if passed, would either significantly delay or in some cases take away your right to be able to purchase a firearm. It's very, very difficult, and it all has to do with the background check. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what these bills are and what they do. All right, so first we're going to start off with, first of all, let's explain what HR1324 and HR5949 are. Oh, I almost forgot, and HR6453. First of all, what they'll do is they would direct the FBI to report background checks during the month of March 2020's COVID-19 emergency as they compare to 2019. The point behind this is that they want to create propaganda claiming that increased firearm sales pose a serious health and security risk to the American people. Folks, you have to understand this is all part of the propaganda that they're seeking to put out there. In particular, in areas, they want to say, well, in areas where there was more violence, well, that's big. The reason why there's more gun violence was because more people were requesting firearms. They completely want to ignore the fact that people were requesting more firearms because in those areas there's more violence. But once again, that's the goal of this particular legislation. It lays the groundwork to expand the amount of data that is collected from NICS. Folks, there is no reason for them to get more information and more data from you. The only thing that a background check is supposed to determine is, are you prohibited from owning a firearm? Are you a danger to your health? Are you a danger to yourself or others? That's usually done through, the mental health aspect of the NIC of that background check. But they also want to check and see if there are other things, other information that has absolutely nothing to do with your criminal background or nothing to do with whether or not you have a fundamental right to keep and bear arms. It's not about the prohibiting stuff. It's about them, once again, just wanting to be able to collect more data and more information in order to keep you from being able to own or possess a firearm. Now let's talk a little about this. So first of all, it mandates that FBI NICS use a database called NDEX, National Data Exchange, which may contain unreliable or hearsay information that could be used to incorrectly delay or deny law enforcement lawful purchase of firearms from licensed dealers. Now, to give you an example, California is what's called point of contact state, meaning California doesn't necessarily rely on NICS. NICS is part of what they use for their background checks, but they do their own background checks. And one of the things, for example, that they do is if they look at your arrest record, if you've ever been arrested for anything. Now, mind you, being arrested is not prohibiting, but in some cases, some courts don't always, you may be arrested and then just released. Right? Some courts don't necessarily put the information on there that you were released or that charges have been dropped. That information is not included in the report. So what happens sometimes in the state of California is if you've been arrested and there's no record of the adjudication of that particular thing, well, then they're going to take additional time to try and find out what happened. And oftentimes that delay just winds up ending with you being denied because they really don't put the energy or the effort in. If they can't find it out on a computer, they don't really put the energy or the effort in to find out what actually happened. Right? If there's no record, there's no record. It's not like they're going to call up that court and say, well, what happened in this particular case? Now imagine this sort of stuff being available nationwide, right? Imagine now, you've moved to another state and 20 years ago, you got arrested for something and it wasn't, even being arrested in that state wasn't prohibiting, but in California, they don't know. They don't know what the end result was. So guess what winds up happening? You either wind up getting it delayed or you wind up getting it denied. Now you can appeal, but once again, now, once you start going through these processes, it starts costing you money and it starts to become expensive. And unless you have the resources, your rights are delayed. And once again, unless you have the resources, they're also often denied. It lays the groundwork for a de facto national registry and a social credit system as a way to delay or deny your right to keep and bear arms. Folks, I'm telling you this once again. This is if there's any sorts of warnings. If there's anything, and once again, this sort of database is something that if there's anything that is of concern, that once again has nothing to do with you being a criminal, has nothing to do with you being prohibited. It all has to do with, is there a reason why somebody feels they should either delay or deny your right to keep and bear arms? Nothing to do with the law. It could be hearsay. It could be gossip. It could be just simply someone didn't do their job and put appropriate information into this database at the local level. And once again, you are subject to anything that happens, any data that may be entered in any podunk county anywhere in the United States that is involved in this particular process. This is, once again, and this is all done once again in the guise of, well, we just want to make sure that nobody who is prohibited from owning a firearm gets a firearm. I get the motivation. The problem is that more often than not, what happens is you wind up delaying or obstructing the right of law-abiding citizens who've done absolutely nothing wrong from being able to exercise their fundamental right to keep and bear arms. And folks, that's why we need your support. That's why we need you to go to stopnixdelays.com. That's stopnixdelays.com and work to make sure, and once again, once you get there, you can review. There's information on each of the measures. Once you get there, there's a take action button you can hit where you can send letters to the folks who are going to be making decisions on these bills and letting them know that this is not acceptable. Folks, it's really quite simple. They want to go out of their way to try and make it harder for law-abiding. No, let me clarify. They want to make it harder for people to be able to get firearms. And they really don't care if you are law-abiding. They don't care if you've broken any laws. They want to make it more difficult for anybody to be able to purchase firearms. And with something like this, I promise you will see unnecessary delays in background checks throughout the country. So, folks, we need to stand up against this. So please take your time. Go to stopnixdelays.com. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and telling your friends about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.